Hi, I'm Srish and I am incredibly impatient when things don't go exactly the way I want them to. I am also an artist, which is a really hard job to do when you're as impatient as I am. Becoming really good at art requires years and years of dedication and patience, and let's be honest, no one really wants to draw the ugly sketches and the weird twisted paintings that have to be painted before you can get good enough to make incredible concept art. While there may not be a way to avoid the ugly intermediate stages of art altogether, in my over a decade of experience as an artist, I've learned that there are some tips and tricks that really helped me improve my art a lot faster, and others that really didn't. So today's video is going to be a bit of a do's and don'ts type of deal on how you can become a better artist quicker and more efficiently. I will do my best to keep this video as general as possible and make it so that all these tips apply to all styles of art, but I am primarily a character concept artist and illustrator, which means that they might be a little bit biased towards my genre of art, so I do apologize for the subconscious bias, but do your best to apply these to your style as best you can. If you enjoyed this video and learned something today, please do remember to like and subscribe. Comment below your biggest tips on how you can paint better, faster, and come say hello on social media. All the links are down below. Alrighty, here are some do's and don'ts on how to become a better artist a lot quicker. So I actually want to start with some don'ts today, because I feel like if we get some common bad art habits out of the way, it leaves us with a clean slate to get the do's in. Also, with the Sagittarius piece done and out of the way, we can get into the next sign on my light zodiac series, which is Capricorn. So that's what we're going to be sketching today. Alrighty, let's dive in. We're gonna kick off with something that might be a little controversial, but my first don't for the day is to not just draw what you like to draw. So the reason I think this might be a little controversial is because there is so much emphasis these days on the whole find your unique style and draw for yourself, not for everyone else. And yeah, I agree, these are absolutely important things, but personally, I believe these platitudes only really become practical when you're actually at a pretty high level of skill already. The way I like to think of it is like when all these crypto bros tell you to invest thousands of dollars into Bitcoin and your bank balance is at like 100. The vision is there, but you're not quite equipped to make it real. Instead, I really believe that you're better off actively expanding your skill set by drawing more than just the things that you like. If you're a character artist like me, try working on getting better at painting backgrounds and landscapes. If you do landscapes a lot, try still life. Switch up your medium, switch up your painting surface, switch up your entire workflow from time to time. This is actually why I started the whole technique tryout series a while ago, is because I got in such a solid habit of painting in a certain way that it was actively hampering my improvement as an artist. Practice painting more than just the familiar, because it will really help you round off your skills and also just see your familiar subjects in a different light. In other words, it expands your understanding of form, light, and composition, so you're starting to think beyond what you already know. But Srish, I hear you say, what about the saying about being a jack of all trades, master of none? Shouldn't I be specializing? Well, my friend, even doctors only specialize after several years of general medical education. Besides, the saying actually goes, jack of all trades, master of none, but better than a master of one. Okay, let's talk about critique. Now, critique is an important part of growing and improving at your art, and it is also a wonderful way to work mutually with other artists. And that is where it should stop. Problem is, a lot of non-artistic people like to offer critique about art, and unless you're an expert at discernment, it can be really hard to tell objective critique from subjective opinion, at least when criticism comes from the general public. Among fellow artists, however, 9 times out of 10, the critique is based on objective knowledge of art and design principles. Why? Because artists understand what goes into the work, how art is made, and most importantly, where art technique stops and style begins. Now, does this mean that any and all critique from non-artists is invalid? No. A lot of people are just naturally good at aesthetic judgment, and that's great. However, the vast majority of opinions out there are extremely subjective and very much come from a place of personal preference and views. And unless you're definitively able to distinguish useful critique from just people's opinions, you're in danger of taking on any and all criticism and trying to change your art to please every single person. Not only does this take out the most important part of the equation, which is you, but it will likely also leave you with some weird Frankenstein-esque chimera art that you don't even recognize anymore. So don't take critique from just anyone, make sure they actually know what they're talking about. Since we're on the subject of the court of public opinion, let's talk about the biggest plague on the art community: trendy art. Okay, at the risk of sounding like a non-conformist hipster, nothing bugs me more than people constantly changing their style in order to fit what is currently trending online. Yes, there is a lot to learn from every new art trend that comes along, and sure, our style is meant to evolve constantly. However, nothing makes me more upset than when beginner artists feel the need to completely abandon their own artistic expression in order to follow style trends on Instagram and ArtStation. This is pretty much the same thing as taking critique from random strangers on the internet, except it's more peer pressure-y. Sure, following these fads will make you popular in the moment since the algorithm promotes trending topics, but the thing about trends is that they change at the drop of a hat. As a result, your audience is going to change just as quickly. You're going to switch up your style and lose the attention of your current audience, then have to build a new fan base from scratch, not to mention how instead of your style evolving, it is being scrapped and rewritten constantly. And even on the off chance that you do retain an audience, the question to ask about all of this is, do you even love art? Are you creating because you enjoy the process? Or is it simply a skill that you want to market and get rich and famous off of? And hey, if the latter is true, more power to you, go make that money. But the point is, simply following trends may not improve your art at all unless you plan to learn from each trend and then apply it to your own style. I think the biggest disservice that pop culture has done for artists is to romanticize the idea of inspiration. Remember that scene from The Notebook where she sits in that big balcony with an easel in the sunshine and paints all sensual-like? Yeah, that's not even remotely what art is like. Sure, there are moments of pure magic where inspiration strikes you and you pick up a pencil or brush or stylus and go at it, but in my experience, more often than not, inspiration strikes precisely at the time where there is absolutely no way for me to paint. And for the longest time, I thought this meant I was just a bad artist, or I need to start carrying a plein air kit everywhere I go. Well, as it turns out, the mistake we all make is to let inspiration be the driving force behind the actual legwork that art takes. Inspiration is meant to drive the ideation process, the bit where you have a sudden flash, an image of what to draw next. The actual drawing, the rendering and texturing is muscle work. It is the repetitive factory labor that takes the idea to a finished product. Inspiration simply can't help you there. What does help is to make it a habit to paint, even when you don't feel like it. Art is not just a cool, magical thing that some people can naturally do while others can't. It takes hard work, dedication, and most of all, consistency. Waiting until inspiration moves you to draw is a futile exercise because inspiration is so fleeting that you're gonna lose it in under 2 minutes. Focus on drawing out of habit and consistency instead, and you'll find that the extra man hours really help you improve a lot quicker. Okay, let's now talk about some of the things you should do in order to improve faster as an artist. And I want to start with a thing I once accidentally stumbled upon a few years ago that changed my life: style study. Essentially, once a month, I like to take a week out and try learning another artist's style. I know this seems contrary to what I just said about trendy art a moment ago, but hear me out. It's not about what you're drawing, it's about the intention behind it. I love studying the styles of other artists, but not because I plan to copy it or trick people into liking my art because it looks like it was made by a popular artist. The reason I do style study videos every month is because it opens up new possibilities in my art skill. Style studies expose me to new kinds of shape language, rendering, and lighting setups, all of which force me out of my comfort zone. And that is where the vast majority of your growth happens, is far outside your comfort zone. In fact, here, let me prove to you that this works. Like I said, I've been painting for over a decade, and while I was okay at photo studies, here's what my original art looked like right up until a couple of years ago. In fact, I did my very first style study 4 years ago, which was 8 years after I first started painting. So for the first 8 years, my art looked like this. And now, 4 years of style studies later, this is what my original art looks like. Do you see how significantly better it is now? In fact, you probably found my channel through a style study because people love this stuff and it really does work. So try studying the style of your favorite artist with the intention to expand your skills, that is, and you'll find yourself getting way better at art way quicker. And also, on the off chance you haven't watched a style study before, I will leave the playlist here in the cards. There's over 40 of them now, so you can go on a style study bender after this video. Enjoy! This one's pretty straightforward. Always make sure your visual library is well stocked. No matter what painting you're working on, you want to gather more inspiration than just the basic pose references. In fact, for my last painting, I ended up creating a new reference board for each stage of the painting. So the Sagittarius piece took 4 weeks to paint, which meant I made 4 separate reference boards on PureRef as the painting progressed. This is because as the piece evolves, it sometimes takes a new direction at every stage, and every time a painting pivots, it is important for you as the artist to refresh your visual library in order to keep up with the painting itself. But this isn't just about gathering references as a painting progresses. I also highly recommend just consuming more art in general. As a rule, I like to scroll through my Instagram feed for my art account every evening during my coffee break, specifically because I've curated it to only feed me things that would enrich my visual library or just improve my mood in some way. I follow a lot of art accounts, of course, but also a lot of photographers, a lot of craft accounts like pottery and ceramics people, cake decorators and such, and of course therapists and feel-good accounts that help my mental state. In a world where social media platforms themselves actively bombard you with content you don't even care about, it is important to be very careful about what you're consuming. Sure, a curated feed might not be quite as fun as watching a million people do the same TikTok dances, but as someone who is in creation mode at least 12 hours a day, at least 5 days a week, I find that only consuming stuff that would actually help my art, at least more regularly than any other form of content, has made life so much easier. It's not just about looking at other people who put out pretty art, it's about staying in that mindset of creative thinking. Kind of like if you were to go to an artist retreat and be surrounded by just the most creative energy, except you're on your couch and your dog is climbing into your lap without your consent. My next big do for improving faster is to save all the things you see that inspire you. I usually use Pinterest because it's visual. Now, this one may seem like a no-brainer, but here's the catch. How many times have you actually looked back at all the things that you've saved? If you're like me, you've probably hoarded a million inspirational art pieces, pose references, color palettes, concept ideas, and period costume references. But how many times have you gone back to these references and actually used them in a painting? The next time you can't figure out what to draw, I challenge you to go back and look at all the inspo you've saved for later when you were mindlessly scrolling. This is the same beat as going through your old sketchbooks and finding early concepts that you can turn into full illustrations. Chances are you've saved some absolute gems and then fully forgotten they existed. Stop adding more and more images to your collection and just not using them. You're missing the entire point. Go back and look at it all and actually do something with these images. Okay, raise your hand if you've ever taken an online art course and watched all the videos but not done most or any of the coursework assignment things. Either your hand is up right now or you're lying to my face, and in either case, I'm very disappointed in you. When course instructors create art courses, it isn't simply designed to throw loads and loads of art theory at you in the hopes that knowing enough of this stuff will make you a good artist. The assignments are specifically designed to help you internalize and actually apply all the theoretical things that you're learning. When you skip the coursework, what you're essentially doing is expecting your memory to do all the improving, whereas your hands and visual cortex have done absolutely nothing to improve your art. Look, I've done this too, because coursework is repetitive and sometimes so basic that I think I'm too advanced for it. Which, by the way, huge misconception, you'll never be too advanced to do the basics or to do drills. However, I've learned over time that the only knowledge that I actually remember and use to this day is stuff that I learned in art courses where I actually did the assignments that go with the tutorials. I don't even remember the names or topics of any of the other art courses I've taken, and boy have I taken a ton. Truth is, when you skip the assignments on art courses, what you're essentially doing is giving money to an art instructor and receiving a product that you will literally never use again. Might as well flush that money down the drain, because that's about as much value as you're going to get from it. That sounds harsh, but it's true. Actually do your homework, because otherwise you're flushing money down the drain. My final do for today is to work with your tendencies instead of against them. If you're watching this, chances are that you first learned to draw and write on paper with a pencil. Back when you were a little toddler with an infinite amount of creative potential, one of the first fine motor skills that they taught you was to hold and maneuver a pencil. And I promise you, there is something magical about the feeling of an actual pencil on actual paper that digital art simply cannot match up to. Look, maybe the current generation of children who grow up knowing how to use a stylus on a tablet won't need this. But hey, as someone who was born smack dab in the middle of the 90s, in India no less, all we had was pencils and crayons and such. And despite the fact that I've been painting digitally for about 8 years now, I still find that my ideas just flow way better on paper. It doesn't literally have to be pencils and paper for you. The point is to just keep in touch with your first drawing medium and try to make it a part of your usual workflow, because I can promise you, just the simple act of going to your roots for a little bit, even if it is only a tiny fraction of your actual process, will put you straight into creation mode. And as with every sketch ever, I also started this one in my sketchbook. This is the 10th installment for my Light Zodiac series, which, if you guys don't know, I've been working on a Zodiac series where we did the shadow aspects of all 12 signs first, and then got into the lighter aspects of them all. This one is number 10 in the Light series, Capricorn. I'm eager to see where this goes, but here's the sketch so far. So what do you think? Which of these do's will you be doing, and which of these don'ts do you do that you plan to stop doing moving forward? Are there any do's and don'ts that you do or don't do that really helped you improve at painting a lot faster? Is this outro slowly turning into the Pink Panther theme song? Comment below and let me know. If you enjoyed this video and learned something today, please remember to give it a big thumbs up and maybe share it with an art pal who could use some really quick improvement as well. And also make sure you're subscribed to my channel and you have your notifications on, because next week we're doing a style study that you guys actually picked out of a poll on my Patreon. So make sure you have your notifications turned on so you know when that premieres. If you'd like to give your input on future videos and future style studies, you can always come say hello on Instagram. And if you want to join the chat, if you want to join in on some challenges that we occasionally have, you can check out my Discord server. All of the links are down in the description. And if you're looking for extra perks and rewards, all of my art and chill tutorials, all my speed paints from start to finish, as well as my brush kit for Krita and Photoshop, it is all up on my Patreon. I'll leave a link up here, and thank you so much for your support. Alrighty, you guys, that's about everything I have to say today. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Now, like I said, getting through the ugly stages of painting requires a ton of motivation. So last week I actually put out a video talking about how you can stay accountable and motivated as an artist. So if that's something you're interested in, I'll leave that video down here in the outro. Make sure you check that out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye!